Good morning, algebra students. Glad to be with you today. So you should have your vocabulary sheet in Module 5. This is Lesson 3, and we're going to learn about scatter plots and lines of fit. So go ahead and get your vocabulary sheet out. On your vocabulary sheet, you have 3 definitions, and we also have a couple other things that you need to know about and understand. Bivariate data, scatter plots, and linear extrapolations. You'll need to write the definition in your own words, a sentence that will help you remember it, and then an example. So you're going to have a visual example of all of these things. And the bivariate data is very similar to a scatter plot whenever you give an example of it. So let's go ahead and begin. In the bivariate data, the official explanation or the official definition is data that consists of pairs of values. So I want you to remember that. Think about what you already know about pairs of values. Hopefully you've associated this with ordered pairs or data on a graph. That could be your sentence to understand that. So this is data that you're going to use in scatter plots. Sometimes there's no correlation. This is part of your bivariate data where X and Y are not related. So Y is not dependent on X. And we'll see examples of this in class, which means that there's data all over the place and there's no rhyme or reason to the data. You can't see a general pattern in the upward way or the downward way. There's really just data everywhere. So wait for the next example to get, wait for scatter plot to get your next example. And then in bivariate data, you can label on your example what an ordered pair is. And that's really kind of what that definition is. All right, your second definition is a scatter plot. And this is an example of a scatter plot. And this would be an example, one of these dots right here would be an example of the bivariate data. So there's your 2 examples right there. Your official definition of a scatter plot is it's a graph of plotted points that show the relationship between 2 sets of data. In this example, specific example, this one represents a person's weight versus their height. So this is many people and it has their weight versus their height and its data. And you can see that there seems to be a general pattern in the taller you are, the more that you weigh. Go ahead and give some thought into what kind of an example that you want to give for this. And with that being said, a line of fit in a scatter plot is used to describe the trend of the data of the scatter plot. So a line of fit in a scatter plot is very important. So in this case, your line of fit is going to look something like this, where the data points are kind of hovering around the line. So that's a good example of a line of fit. We're going to use this quite a bit whenever we get into scatter plots and what everything means. Finally, linear extrapolation, the definition is the use of a linear equation to predict values that are outside the range of data. And in a good way to remember that is it's really kind of your function. What you'll do is you'll choose 2 points on the line of fit that are close to the line of fit. They could be on the line of fit. Generally, it's the first data point you choose that you're going to start your line, which would be this one right here, and your last data point in your line of fit. And you'll use those as your X1, X2, Y1, Y2. So it would be your X1, Y1, and your X2, Y2. Those would be your ordered pairs. And if you remember in determining slope, you need to know the change in X and the change in Y. Now remember, you couldn't use all of these because this is not a linear function. You couldn't use all of these plots because it's not a linear function. So you have to choose two of them to create a function rule where you could estimate maybe where the plot might be out here on your graph. So this would be used to report future data. The trend in this case, of course, is the taller you are, the more you weigh. Well, what if you're 10 feet tall? About how much would you weigh? So that's what a linear extrapolation is. It's an equation that you create from your line of fit from above so that you can predict something that will happen in the future. We'll work on this a little bit more in class. Make sure that your vocabulary sheet is filled out with sentences, with examples, and with definitions. Please put this into your yellow folder.